Hey, happy Friday, April 25th. Welcome to another great episode of the Real Deal podcast. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harden, and this is going to be reaction to the first round of the 2025 NFL draft, which was last night. A lot of surprises, some trades, some teams reaching as always. That's the draft. So again, I hope everyone is enjoyed the first round of the draft. So, and I got a great returning podcast family back on the show. So let's get it. All right, welcome to another great episode of the Real Deal podcast, NFL Draft First Round Reaction. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harden. Again, glad to be back. Happy Friday. I hope everyone gets to enjoy this Friday and have a good weekend as well. You can follow the show on all the podcast platforms, whether it's Spotify, Apple. We're on Spreaker. We are on everywhere. YouTube, iHeartRadio. You can follow BS3 TV, bs3tvlive.com. That's where the website and the network. So on Roku, all the platforms. You can follow me on all the social media platforms, whether it's Twitter, X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I'm also on Blue Sky. So yeah, get the real deal podcast everywhere. So without further ado, I am going to bring in my guest. I've met her at the Fantasy Football Expo a couple years ago, and we became really good friends, and we chat even off camera. So I know that we're good friends when we chat. We can chat off camera as well and everything. So I followed her, and she does excellent work with the fantasy football analyst. She does a little bit of everything when it comes to the fantasy football and everything too. So I'm going to welcome her in. And like I said, she's been on the show many times. She is, like I said, she is a podcast family. So lawyer, fantasy football analyst with Fantasy and Frames, host of the Waiver Show and the Sunday Tailgate, and also the Between Us and the Covers podcast. So what a title and a resume. Stacy Perez, welcome back to the show. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much, Courtney. Thank you so much for having me. That's a new intro since I've been here, hasn't it?
Yeah. This is my this is usually like my Saturday show that I usually do. So, sometimes during the week I'll throw, like, we did a lot on Zoom. So, but I've been using StreamYard. So I'm like, you know what? I do the show so many times. I'm gonna put my Saturday show each time. So that's why this is a new platform and everything too. So
I love it.
Yeah, thanks.
I love it.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you and your time. And like I said, good friend. And thank you again for doing this. It's been a little bit. So I said, time to catch up. So I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think this is it's my fourth time, I think.
Yeah, something like that. Fourth or fifth time. Yeah. In the last couple of years. And I love our conversations. I love, love what you do. And you're big in the fantasy football space, but not even just that, just a good all around person. And so I just love that you said we met the one time. Hopefully we can meet in person again sometime down the road. And I love what you do in all those spaces. So for sure. And we got some comments already in the chat. If you guys got any questions or you guys want to talk about your your team and did you like your picks and things like that, definitely do that. So we got Nathan, thank you for tuning in as always. Happy Friday. You said you were at the I got you there. No, you're fine.
What happened? I hit over the comment section and I think StreamYard just took you
right out. No problem. I got it. He said Nathan Ramasandra from the Nathan Sports Rush podcast. Really appreciate all the support always being in the comments. He said he was at the Giants and Jets draft party yesterday. Giants Giants had a pretty good, really good draft. I must, as an Eagle fan, don't want to really admit it, but they did. And it was a crazy first round. Yes, it was. He said he loves the Jags being aggressive. We're going to talk about that as well. And he says, hello, Stacy. He says, yep, women in sports for sure.
Right.
All right. Yes. So let's get into this. How would you think of the draft overall? What you've seen? Like I said, you were at the Tampa Bay Lightning playoff because you are a a season ticket holder. So you said, I gotta do this. Well, the NHL hockey playoffs and the draft was on, the NBA playoffs was on. There was so much going on.
There was so much going on. I couldn't believe it all coincided on the same night when we got the schedule for the first round of the playoffs. And of course, like the second home game was the night of the draft. And thankfully it started at, the game started at 6:30. So at least we had like a little bit of cushion, in between. So I was able to kind of keep up on my phone with what was going on the first few rounds, made it home in time for the last part of the draft, was able to jump on with the Fantasy and Frames crew to kind of talk about and then be still awake to watch my Packers take Matthew Golden. So
that was and like you said, there was so much. I mean, we're not complaining as sports fans with so much sports, because then when there's not enough sports on, we were like, oh, what we're gonna do and everything too. So yes, you got the draft, you got that's right. Yes, the NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs. There was just I had the TV on. I was switching back. I was watching most of the draft, but I was switching back and forth with a lot of the different sports going on, just catching up and things like that. But mostly on the NFL draft yesterday. So it was an interesting first few picks. I mean, the first pick, we kind of knew that's what was going to happen. Cam Ward going to Tennessee. That was not a surprise. But Jacksonville moving up to get Travis Hunter with the Browns was at number 2. Were you surprised with that? Like Jacksonville moving up from 5 to 2, and then the Browns moving down to 5th.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised about that. And I think pretty much everybody was. I mean, I'm sitting there at the Lightning game, it's intermission, and I get this notification on my phone that they made that trade. And I'm trying to show I'm so like shocked by it. I'm showing my friend who could care less about football. I'm like, you don't understand, this is a big deal.
Yes.
But I guess who wasn't really all that surprised was Travis Hunter, because did you see the interview with him after? He was looking for houses on Zillow the night before.
I saw that. And it looked like they said that Jacksonville and Cleveland were working on this trade for the last 2 weeks. So it's always I love the insider things that happens down like when it comes out. And he was like, Jacksonville was really pushing to get me, and now I'm here, and he's a two-way phenom. Do you feel like he's gonna play? They got him for receiver. Do you think he's going to be able to play defensive back and receiver and at a high rate?
I think that's a really hard, ask for somebody, especially, going in their rookie year in the NFL. And, it's so different than college. It's such a faster pace, in the NFL. And I think that's going to be really hard for him coming in and learning that role as a wide receiver, and then also, learning the role, on the defensive side of the ball as well. I think you're asking a lot of a young player there, not to say that he couldn't do it, and not to say that they wouldn't maybe have special, plays where they throw him in to use it. But I just really couldn't see him being like a, baseball equivalent of a Shohei, throwing him in there all the time. I doubt he's going to be on there, the entire game, both sides of the ball. But I'm sure that, given that his talent level and that he's done that before, I'm sure that they're going to have special packages for him. But I think primarily, and I think that's what I've seen anyway, when I've just been like checking the internet this morning, is that they're pretty committed to using him on the offensive side.
Yeah. And I think that's what Jacksonville wants to use him on that for being a receiver. And it's going to be hard, because I think Louis Riddick had said, one of them said that, I can't see him playing 120 snaps, and he has some, injury concerns anyway, because, and then playing like that type of physical sport on both sides. And not saying he couldn't do it, like you said, with the talent level, but it's going to be tough. Like, you're going to play receiver, a lot of snaps at receiver, but I agree with you on he's going to be, they're going to have some packages for him on the defensive side, and he'll probably do a punt return. He'll probably do some punt returning. But they got to definitely, you use a lot of assets to move up, and you want to protect that. You want to protect your player. Exactly. You don't want them to play so many snaps on both sides of the football. But I
Mhm.
agree that he'll definitely be receiver and just a weapon that Trevor Lawrence needs
Yeah.
in Jacksonville. So we'll see what goes down there. Yeah, I was surprised that the trade was so early in the draft
Right.
and it happened. So Nathan has a question. That's the big elephant in the room. Where do you think Shador Sanders would go? And
Ooh.
he slipped like as soon as he started slipping, and the Saints didn't take him, the
Yeah.
Steelers didn't take him, and the Giants moved up from the second round to late in the first round, and they got Jackson Dart. I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, Sanders is going to be. I say yes, he'll go. I think he goes to Cleveland. I think they
Yeah.
got two early picks in the second round. But what do you think, Shador? And were you surprised that he slipped? Did he slipped out of the first round?
I think this is always the case every year, right? There's a player that gets so
Yeah.
hyped up in the media and
Yep.
going in, and everybody expects and they put all these expectations that he's going to be, a top 5 pick, a top 2 pick, the number 1 pick, whoever it might be. And then the way the NFL teams actually, evaluate those players is so different.
Yeah.
And they are privy to so many things that we don't know. And who knows why he's slipping. Who can say? Maybe a lot of people, just didn't think maybe he's just not a first round talent. Who knows?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I hate all the rumors that come out, and stuff about, oh, people's attitudes and things like that. Cause I just don't like believing a lot of that stuff. I think a lot of that stuff is smoke.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so, I mean, who's really to say on that? I mean, I think really, it's probably closer to maybe teams just didn't necessarily think he was a first round talent. Uh,
Mm.
but I think Cleveland is a good spot for him. I mean, I think if you can get him, if you're Cleveland and you can get him on a second round price rather than a first round price,
Yeah.
that's a good deal for you, not
Yeah.
necessarily for the player. But they after the Saints passed on him, it was kind of like, all right, now we're looking at the rest of these teams. Who really needs a quarterback? And
Yeah.
we're kind of like, well, nobody really at that point, until then, of course, the Giants trade back in and then go with Dart, which I think is a much better fit for the situation that they have going on right now.
Yeah.
You've got Jameis, you've got, Russ there. I can't imagine that you would then have gotten, Shador so early just to sit behind those two. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
that that seemed a little weird if that's the plan that they're, going with this season. But yeah, I think Cleveland is probably going to be the landing spot,
I
for
do too.
Shador today.
I agree. I do. And then, and like I said, when the Saints did pass on him, and I thought there's only one other team that needs a QB, and that was Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
and they're waiting for Aaron Rodgers. I'm sure that's the intel they're getting. And
Right.
but even if they get Aaron Rodgers for what 1 year, maybe 1 year, and
Yeah.
maybe they're waiting till next season where
Mhm.
they said the QB the quarterback position is much deeper
Yeah.
after next season. So, but I guess I don't know. It's funny because I got Sam Holt coming on the
Mhm.
show later, and she's a big Pittsburgh fan, and
Yeah.
she was saying, she was messaging, we were messaging back and forth, and she said that she was upset because she's like, hey, we don't have a quarterback. Got Mason Rudolph. That's and how that played out, and it's like
Yeah.
Shador sitting right there, and now they might have squandered the opportunity unless they
Right.
move up in the second round. I don't see Cleveland passing on him with 2 picks now
Yeah.
in the second, two picks early in the second round, I think 33 and 36.
Yeah.
I don't see them passing on Shador, but yeah, it was kind of like you said. Some of the rumors about attitude and yeah, it's hard to say what's true
Right.
and what's not, and maybe there's some. But I did read too that the Giants, and when he had his interview with them, they I guess the interview didn't go well. So I don't know
Mhm.
how much a rumor of that was
Yeah.
with Dable and him not
Yeah.
seeing eye to eye on things, and
Mhm.
it's weird. But I agree with you on the um, Russ and Jameis, and if you get Shador in that quarterback room, what a quarterback room that would have been. And
Yeah.
Dable and the GM now are they're fighting for they're coaching for their jobs and things like
Yep.
that. So they have to try to win now.
Right.
And Shador being behind both of those guys, I don't think it would have fit either because of the situation. Because if say the Giants start bad
Yeah.
again, 1-10 or something like that by both quarterbacks, they were forced to play. They were forced to play Shador, and then they
Mhm.
lose their job. So yeah, I can
Yeah.
see
Well,
why they picked Dart over him.
Exactly. I mean, think of the media like environment.
Yes, in New York, yes.
I mean, they're just going to be clamoring, constantly. The minute that Russ or Jameis throws an interception, they're going to be,
Yes,
start or
yes.
start score. And that just
Yep.
seems like that's a lot of drama that, if I were the Giants front office, I probably wouldn't want to deal with. But
Yeah, yeah, agreed. I agree with that too. Totally. I think that's the reason why they could say, okay, we got Dart on the as our third string,
yep, let him
and we
learn.
don't have to rush. Let them learn. We don't have to rush. And
Yeah.
if like I said, if Russell Wilson struggles, we go and we can have Jameis Winston. If
Oh,
he struggles, we don't have to be, forced to play someone
right.
like Shador who brings so much, so much star quality
Right.
uh in New York too. Yeah, so I
Hmm.
can see why they did pass on him. So all right, we got to get into your Packers, and he had.
Yeah.
Ethan's a Cowboys fan, so he said he thought Matthew Gordon was going to Dallas. I thought Gordon was going to go a little earlier too, but
Yeah.
I mean, fell into the laps of the Packers, and so it's like,
Yep.
why not? And I did read that the Eagles were trying to. We got to talk about Eagles and the Eagles and Packers. There's some
Oh, yeah.
history with the push tush. I want to get your that whole thing. But yeah, Matthew Golden goes to Green Bay. What was your reaction to that? I'm sure it was another weapon for Jordan Love.
Yeah, so I'm talking myself into it slowly because
Mm-hmm.
I was so surprised that the Packers finally took a wide receiver in the
Yeah,
first round. So it's been since 2002.
yeah.
I was just getting out of high school when I looked at that. I was like, oh my gosh. Javon Walker was their last first round wide receiver that they took. So that was just wild to me. But, I mean, when you start really thinking about it, right? Christian Watson's going to miss time with that knee injury. And we don't really have a guy whose specialty is stretching the field and
Yeah,
what Matthew Golden brings to the table, obviously with his, combine speed, being the top speed at the combine, just really showing off well. I was kind of looking at some stats of his this morning and, just really kind of showed up those last few games of his in college, averaging 102 yards per those last 4 games with the SEC championship and then in the playoffs. But, I just, I'm excited about this. Like I'm really, kind of coming around to it.
yeah,
He wasn't always my favorite wide receiver of this group, but, we've got Dubs and we've got Watson that are going into contract years in their 5th year. Jaden Reed had a little bit of a down year last year, so did Wicks. So I think we really could use some help, at that position. Did I think that we had some other needs that maybe should have been addressed first? Sure. But I'm not at the end of the day, I'm not mad about it at all.
yeah.
And especially after seeing like how excited he was to be there and just all the stuff that I've seen on the internet about it. I'm totally in on it now. I'm all let's go.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think once he kept like once he was sliding a little bit, I'm thinking, okay, one of the well top teams, but the teams that had those picks at the bottom of the draft. I'm thinking, okay, someone's gonna get a really good receiver in Matthew Golden. And he said he brings speed
Mhm.
and all those attributes that he has. I think it was a great pick for them, and it wasn't like you said, it wasn't necessary for the Packers a necessary need, but then it was a need because you said
Yeah.
they need another receiver. You can't have, I mean, you have a plethora of weapons. It does help it does help the offense even more for someone like Jordan Love to have a guy on the outside to stretch the field, like you said. And yeah, I thought it was a really good pick, and I was surprised that somebody like the Cowboys didn't, because I had the Cowboys either
Mhm.
getting him or Ted McMillan, but McMillan went earlier than I thought. So, but yeah, it was a good pick, real good pick for the
Mhm.
Packers.
Yeah, I'm really, really happy with it.
Hmm.
And I think, the knock on Golden Ray is he's a little bit shorter,
Yeah.
5'11". But you know what though? So is Jaden Reed, and he's been
Yep.
just fine. And that is kind
Yeah.
of the trend with these receivers coming out of college. You're not seeing the guys that are, are 6'5" monsters, right? You're seeing guys that are, in the 5'10", 5'11" range who
Yep.
are still being able to produce and still being able to have successful careers at the position. So that really doesn't bother me at all. That's not I'm not concerned about that.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, it was a good. I thought it was a solid pick, especially at that at that position where they were. Um, what other needs did you want to see them address in these now round two and round two this weekend?
Yeah. So I think the biggest one for me is going to be we've got to do something about depth at cornerback over here because we've got
Yeah.
Jair Alexander trade rumors. We don't know what's going to happen with him. Is he still going to be a Packer? Is he not? I hope he is. I love Jair Alexander. Like
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
such a fun personality anyway. But I think we need to address depth there. This is a really great O-line draft. Don't ask me very much more about O-line stuff
No, all good.
on the like a fantasy side. But from what I've been listening to, like it's a really strong O-line draft. So I would really like to see, that, position kind of being shored up. We're having a new guy at center this year. We lost our center. I forget where he went. Josh Myers. And then we've got some guys entering contract years, right? So we just really need to kind of build that up so that we've got, if we do lose players going in, if we do have injuries, we've got guys that are solid that can step in, and it's not going to be to the detriment of, of Jordan Love and the rest of the offense.
Yeah, protect the quarterback. That's for sure.
Right.
Got to protect the asset of
Yeah.
that QB. And
Oh yeah.
you said Jordan Love had some injuries last season,
Mhm.
so you got to shore up that old line, and it just shows when you got to have a strong offensive line to be able to block because just like look at the
Hey,
Super
you know
Bowl.
that.
Yeah, right. Yes, got to. And what the Eagles did to the Chiefs in the
Yeah.
Super Bowl,
Mhm.
if you got a strong defensive line against their O line was decimated, and they
Yeah,
just they took advantage of that.
absolutely.
So that's the Chiefs. They addressed it. They was like, hey, we got to get off some linemen,
Yep.
and they did that. But yeah, I agree. I think the Packers offensive line,
Mhm.
corner especially. I think that's a
Yeah.
definitely a need. And I think also DN
Yeah.
would be big for them. So they'll be able to address those needs hopefully this week. And for
Mhm.
that, I was going to ask again. We were talking a little bit before we started recording. What other surprises or some picks that you thought was really good for teams?
So here's a surprising one for me, and I'm really kind of still unsure where I land on it, but it was Emeka Ibuka going to the Bucks. And I
Yeah,
live in Tampa.
yeah,
I am a Packer fan, but I like it when the Bucks do well. Good for the city. And I love Emeka Ibuka. I actually got
yeah,
to talk to him at the combine. Was one of
yeah,
the
yeah.
guys that I got to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
Just really, really personable. Just somebody you really want to see succeed. So I love him going to the Bucks. I think for football purposes, right? That's going to be a lot of fun to watch this offense this year, just like it
Yeah,
has been the last couple of years. But oh man, for fantasy, we are in nightmare world right now, right?
yes,
With all that, like, gosh, what are we gonna do with Jalen McMillan had some great games last
yes.
year.
Mm-hmm.
Even Cade Otton was number 2 in targets last
Yep.
season. I think he had, like,
Mm-hmm.
what, like 84 targets behind Mike Evans. You've got Chris Godwin just got a massive payday recovering from that ankle injury. So you've got just a ton of different weapons for Baker, which is great for real life football. For Sunday afternoon, that's wonderful. But
Yeah.
man, for our fantasy teams, I think that's really gonna hurt McMillan most of all, and I'm really not even sure where that lands me on Emeka if I'm looking at drafting in Dynasty right
Oh
now.
yeah.
Where
Yeah.
am I taking him? Because I think he's an excellent talent, and I think in the future, for sure, but yeah, for this year, I'm a little bit, fantasy-wise, the Bucks are a little scary at this point now.
Yeah, they are. You're right. And from a fantasy perspective, maybe you get Baker and just
Yeah.
and you draft Baker and then just let it just like okay, he's got all these weapons, so he should
Yeah.
have another great year now with all the weapons.
Mhm.
And speaking of that, yeah, let's go like fantasy wise, fantasy purposes. Any other who do you think will make the biggest impact? Like you said, we just talked about DeAndre. We talked about Hunter and Genty went to the Vegas Raiders. I think that's an excellent
Mhm.
spot for him, especially fantasy football wise. It's
Yeah.
what Pete Carroll loving running football. Any other players that from a fantasy perspective that you are looking at?
Well, I mean, of course, you wanna say Travis Hunter, right? But then he's got to
Hmm.
compete with BTJ.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you've got those guys there that, are gonna kinda take, targets away from each other.
Hmm.
So I think my pick is definitely gonna be Ashton Genty.
Yes.
Uh, I think it was surprised that he went to the Raiders. I think everybody would have liked to see him go to the Bears. That's where he was being, mocked. But,
Hmm.
if you take a look at what's going on over in Vegas, their depth chart reads like Raheem Mostert, Sincere McCormick, Zamir White, Dylan Lobby. Nobody that I'm really sitting here thinking like Ashton Genty is going to be behind any of those guys. Probably not,
Yeah.
and then he's got such a great dual threat ability too. He had so many receiving yards in college, there at Boise State. And then you've got Pete Carroll who loves to run the ball, right?
Yes.
So I think this is like the perfect fantasy landing spot for him. I really like Amarian Hampton too, going to the Chargers. I don't know that he makes the biggest fantasy impact this year with Najee there. I think they kind of end up doing a Gibbs Montgomery kind of thing where they both end up with similar numbers at the end of the season, but
Yeah.
one's way more expensive than the other one is.
Yes.
But I think if I have to pick somebody who's going to make the biggest fantasy impact for their teams in 2025, I think it has to be Ashton Genty right now.
I agree. I 100% agree with that. And because he's going to get so many opportunities. And you said Travis Hunter, yes, I think he'll, as you said, he will definitely, I think, especially at midseason on, he'll make a huge impact. But it's got to be Ashton Genty. I think he's in the best position
Yeah.
for team wise with the Raiders, with the Vegas Raiders, that could make an impact like immediately. And he said Pete Carroll he's a guy that just loves to run the football, and he's just a coach that just loves it, and he might have the perfect running back to do it, and so we'll see. And also that protects Geno Smith too.
Mhm.
He got Geno over there, so he knows how Geno, what Geno can do, coaching him for over 2 years or a year, 2 years, and now yeah, I think Ashton Genty is a big, huge asset for the Raiders.
It's a lot of fun to be a Raider fan right now.
Yeah, yes, yeah, it's a lot of fun to be a Raiders fan. Any other players that you that you love that where they went? Anything else?
Yeah, so I'm excited about Tech McMillan going to the Panthers. I like what
Mm,
that does for Bryce Young. I've always kind of really liked Bryce Young and hated to see him struggle the way that he did.
yeah,
I'm really glad that things have really picked up for him the last part of the season, and now going into Canales' next year. With that, I love that McMillan gives him a huge target to throw to. And I went back and I was like, let me look at the rest of the depth chart here and see how big these guys are. I didn't know this. The starting receiver room for the Panthers, like Leggett, Thielen, Coker, these guys are all over 6 foot.
yeah,
So Bryson just got a bunch of
mm,
like tall trees to throw to. So I
right,
love that for him. I think that's great. I mean, of course, the knock on McMillan is that he has separation issues, which if that does, show
yeah,
up in the NFL is going to be a problem. Because if you can't separate, you're putting in your quarterback in a bad position. You got to make them
yeah,
make perfect throws every single time, and and then if they don't, you're creating a lot of contested catch situations,
hmm,
which could always lead to an interception that you don't want.
right.
So hopefully that doesn't really become an issue for him. But I like it. Finally, seems like the Panthers are you know on board with like
Mhm.
getting good pieces on their team
Yeah,
to support their
right.
quarterback and have a team that people want to go see play.
I agree. Yeah, it's funny because you said certain teams you're thinking, okay, what are they doing? Like, are you trying to win, or are you just trying to sell
Yeah.
tickets? And Carolina, for the last quite a few years, it seemed like that's all they were doing. Now they
Yeah.
were trying to build, but you gotta protect your quarterback. And
Yeah.
if you're going all in with Bryce Young, you gotta give him more weapons. And
Yeah.
Ted McMillan, I think was a I didn't have him going to Carolina when I was doing
Mhm.
I didn't know doing I don't do mock drafts, but when I was doing if I figured that they were going to go another route, but
Yeah.
it was a good pickup because you said they got a lot of
Mhm.
receivers that are over 6 foot, and
Yeah.
they said they just a bunch of trees. And Tim McMillan, he's 6'4" or six
Yeah.
five, with that frame, got that T Higgins, Mike
Mhm.
Evans kind of maybe not the
All
strength
lanky. Yeah.
wise, but got the length and
Mhm.
in the height. But right, and I agree that his not being able to separate
Yeah.
could be an issue because you got to be able to get some separation. But if you
Right.
just throw it up and he comes down with it, maybe he'll be a good red zone target for sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
especially with that size, that would be great. So I'm excited that hopefully they get some O-line help today, uh,
Yeah.
kind of shore up that side so poor Bryce isn't running for his life every.
Yeah, like the last 2 years, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. You don't want guys to be running for their lives
No.
and when they're out there and everything too. So, all right, just got a couple more before I let you go. I wanted to you got a chance to go to the combine
Right.
and everything. Congratulations on that
Thank you.
opportunity, and talk about how that came about and how was that experience covering the combine.
It was amazing, and I went with Women of Fantasy Football, and so
Yeah.
grateful for them for letting me go, on their behalf and getting me up there. And so And I had never done anything like that before. So this was all brand new to me, just coming up with different questions.
Yeah.
You've got so many people there that are asking so many of the same questions. And
Yes.
I
Yep.
want to try to be a little bit different and really, because you're going to have guys that are asking about, football stuff. I want to get to know these guys because
Hmm.
I think that that is also really important. The intangibles that they're bringing and of course everybody's going to be nice and you can't just pick nice players, but just like hearing their answers and their thoughtfulness and their reasoning behind those things I thought was just super important. So like I said, I got to talk to Emeka Buka, and unfortunately this was my kind of epic combine fail of the weekend, was that my microphone was the recording, my apparently my watch was interfering with the Bluetooth.
Oh
And
man.
so I have this great video of me asking Emeka Buka a question and him
Yeah, yeah.
and no sound.
Ah,
So it was just brutal. But I got that fixed, thankfully. Had some really great help there with the team that was up there with us. And so all my running back questions are all recorded. My wide receiver one's not so much. But I was super impressed with him. I was also
yeah.
really impressed with uh, oh gosh, Pat Bryant, Terry
Okay.
Glenn was great. There were just so many guys. Oh, Ollie Gordon was another one that I
Mm,
was really impressed with. And so it was such a great experience to be able to go and be in that environment. And just, I was like, the fact that I have access to all of these players, that I
yeah.
could do something like this was just blowing my mind. So I think I'm going to try to use this as a real learning opportunity and think, okay, next year, how can I be better prepared if I get to go, if I'm lucky enough to be able to go, and try to, be able to maximize my time and get, into some more, interviews. And we even decided to stay the last day to talk to the offensive lineman. And you're
Yeah.
kind of like, well, you do fantasy football, like who cares, about talking to offensive linemen, but like those guys are some of the best interviews.
I've
And
heard,
I
yes.
just
Mhm.
I absolutely will be making it a point to, go talk to those guys a little bit more, and then just getting to meet other people in the industry, people that, like, I listen to on a regular basis,
Yeah.
and going and chatting with them, like, we were able to go, like, do happy hour with Stefania Bell. I mean,
Yeah.
come on, right? And we met Laura Rutledge, and she could not have been nicer to us and just, chatted with us about just the combine, just everyday stuff, and
Yeah.
was nice enough to let us interview her. And I met some guys from The Ringer who I listen to one of their shows every day, and they were just super cool. So it was really great to kind of like get in there and be with different folks from the industry and just kind of learn from them. That was really a really exciting thing for me.
Oh, okay. Well, congrats on that. And yeah, it's I saw some of the, the footage you had on your Instagram and things like that and Twitter, and I was like, yes, yes, that's what's wonderful to see. And you're right. I think the connections and the networking when
Mhm.
you're at an environment like that is like one of the biggest things. And it's and I'm sure and it's a lot because I've done Super Bowl media role 2 years
Mhm.
ago, and yeah, it's a lot. It's exciting. It's a lot of work, and you
Yeah.
said it's a lot of work, and I think some people think when they get to go to combine, Super Bowl, other
Mhm.
things like that, oh, it's gonna be, yeah, it's fun, it's a lot of fun, but
Yeah.
if you're going there to work, it's work too. It's
Oh,
definitely work.
yeah.
Some people think it's gonna be a party, but it's not about
No.
it's not that.
No.
Afterwards, yes, you could go, like you
Yeah.
said, you could do happy hour or whatever afterwards, but it's work, especially something that we love to do
Mhm.
with media and things like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. It's a great time to do it. And you're right. It is. You get a lot of the media that does ask a lot of the
Mhm.
same questions. And I thought that same thing when what you said.
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking the same things. Like, yeah, when I had the opportunity, I didn't ask the same question. I tried to think of something
Yeah.
different,
Yeah.
something something maybe I found on their Instagram page or something like that. Ask them about that.
Yeah.
Something that gets them like, oh, this person really asked about fantasy football,
Oh,
something
yeah.
different for sure.
I was trying to ask, things like, like what's a great piece of advice that you've been given over your career?
Yeah, yeah,
What are some things that you want teams to know about you as a person,
yes,
after that weekend,
yeah,
that kind of stuff.
hmm,
And like I just really liked that. And to even just like my first interview, I turned around and I looked at Wendy early and I said, I'm allowed to just go ask them questions. I don't have to get in line. And she was like,
Mhm.
no, get up there.
Yeah, yes. But push yourself up there. Let's go up there.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
by the time we were done our last few interviews, I'm so short. I was just, kind of weaseling my way right up to the front,
Yep.
and nobody could see me, and just getting in there asking them questions. They're probably laughing like, "Oh, this little old lady over here asking us."
Hey, that's the thing. With us being shorter, we take
Yeah,
advantage of that. So
exactly. You just sneak in.
yeah, yep. I love it. I love it. Just go up there and just have your microphone
Yep.
and then
Make
just
sure
be
it's turned
ready.
on.
Yeah,
Make sure your teeth are
make sure it's
connected.
turned
Yeah.
on. That's the thing. Make sure it's turned. But technical issues happen, and
Yep.
that's just the way it is. But hey, you still got
Yeah.
good footage and good things that you were able to ask, and it was just a great experience too.
Oh, yeah.
So shout out to the women of fantasy football. That as an organization, they do so much, and they send a lot of different incredible talented women to a lot of these events,
Oh, yeah.
Combine and Super Bowl and the Fantasy Football Expo. They do a lot of good coverage. So
They're up at the draft right now. They've got a lot of girl I know Kelly and Renee and
yeah,
Faith
yeah,
are
I saw
all up
Kelly
there
there. Yep.
right now. Yeah, up
Yeah.
in Green Bay, and God bless them because it looked so cold up there.
Oh my goodness, yeah, it looked cold they said I had someone on the show a couple weeks last week actually, and they do some NFL like production and things like that,
Mhm.
and she was talking about uh she was just talking about how it's supposed to be cold in Green Bay
Yeah,
when she traveled up there Monday I think it was, and it looked like it was very very cold
yeah.
up there. I was like, nah,
Okay.
I'm good. I was home watching it here because even I mean it was 80 here
Yeah.
yesterday in Philly, but I knew it was going to drop. I didn't
Mhm.
even go to I went to draft party 2 years ago. But I was like, nah, this year I'm staying home just in case it gets a little cold.
Well,
Yeah.
I could use some of that down here because it's in the 90s down here in
Oh
Tampa.
my goodness.
So,
We want some of that 80s and 90s now. We're clamoring for it, but
oh, good for
it's getting there. It's getting there. They still got 80 today. It's supposed to be rain tomorrow, but it
them.
looks like it's gonna start getting consistently 70
Oh,
heading into May.
gosh.
So, but you guys got that hot weather. Oof.
It's hot
Yeah.
down here. I mean,
Yeah.
luckily we haven't had too much humidity yet, but it is hot down here.
Yes, I'm sure. I am sure. Yeah, that Florida heat is no joke. It is no joke.
Right?
Love Florida, just that heat.
Just for
Love it.
vacation, and then
Yeah, just vacation for about 3-4 days, and then I'm back here.
yeah.
But yes. But yes, I gotta ask about. We got to talk about this tush push and your
Oh,
Packers
yeah.
trying to get it banned. They trying their hardest to get it banned. But what's your overall take? I know I know that the NFL is probably tired. They're tired of talking
Mhm.
about it and everything too. And then the Eagles are saying, you know, it's a play that can't be. You guys got to stop it. Got to stop. But as a
Right.
Packer fan and everything too, as a fan just in
Mhm.
NFL and cover, what do you think? Do you think it should be banned or is this just one of those things like it is what it is? You gotta just gotta try to stop it.
Yeah. I think you have to stop it. I mean, I'm one of those things like, is it hurting somebody? Is it causing injuries? If it's not
Right.
doing any of that, then it's your
Yeah.
fault if you can't stop it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
other teams have tried to replicate it and they definitely can't.
Yep.
And I think that's on them. So, Philly has perfected the tush push and good on them that they can do it. And if you don't like it, don't let it happen.
Yeah, you know me. I'm gonna definitely say it, but my unbiased opinion on it is like you said, it's one of those plays it's almost like teams that GMs and stuff that want to
Mhm.
ban it. They just said they can't stop it, but it's like something that they didn't come up with,
Right.
and they haven't they haven't been able to stop it,
Mhm.
and I just feel like, hey, it's a play that it's effective for the Eagles. I know the Bills have tried it and other teams have tried it, but it hasn't worked out. They don't have the personnel or
Yeah.
whatever it takes. The Eagles really practice this play, and it's
Mhm.
become but they don't run it every single play. And I
No,
think if it
no.
was one of those things that we're just gonna push. It's a quarterback sneak. They just the quarterback gets pushed from behind and everything too. Hey, maybe start pushing the defensive linemen
Yeah.
more into them, and that might cause some injuries for sure. But
Right.
there's no there's nothing that says that it's caused injury. I
Right.
know Jason Kelsey said that. I mean, the center gets the brunt of it because
Right.
he's hiking and then he's getting pushed
Mhm.
and shoved. But other than that, yeah, I don't know if it's going to get banned. I know they're talking about maybe in May they're going to take more votes, but some teams are like, so play that just it's worked. They perfected it. We just got to try to stop it.
Yeah, I mean, they only want to ban it because they weren't the ones that came up
Yeah,
with
they
it.
weren't doing it. Yeah. I'm with you. Yep, I'm totally with you. So, last one for me. What do you have coming up, Stacy? What do you have coming up in this next few months? I know fantasy football is on the horizon. It's right around the corner after the draft, and we got to start thinking, okay, what are we doing? But what do you got coming up in the next few months and in your off season from football?
Yeah, off season. There's never an
Yeah.
off season, Courtney.
Yeah.
Football all year.
Yes.
So next Thursday at 9 over at Fantasy and Frames, we are kicking off our draft show over the summer where we do a lot of drafts, a lot of live drafts, best ball redraft. We do all kinds of stuff over there. This year we're mixing it up a little bit. We're going to be bringing on a lot of people to do some strategy, a lot of different experts. To mix that in with our drafts that we're doing. We're going to be doing some Scott Fishbowl mock drafts as well.
Yes.
On that, coming up, getting into June before those start kicking off, going to be bringing in some experts. We've done that last few years. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I've got those two things coming up. Really looking forward to kind of getting back into, weekly fantasy podcasting every week. And then I do the fantasy forecast show over at Player Profiler every other week. It's just a real short 10-minute clip, just, some fun stuff, different little topics every week, that are a lot of fun. And then, once the season gets back going, we'll switch from the draft show on over to the waiver show over at Fantasy and Frames.
I'm looking forward to it because right now, like you said, there's no off season when it comes to NFL and fantasy football, and I'm always after the NFL draft, I'm thinking, okay, because with free agency was so crazy, it was so much going on. Okay, where are all these players? Where they're going to be ranked? Who's going to be the number one overall pick? And just in general, and where does certain players where they land in drafts and things like that. So I'm looking forward to all the content that you're going to be bringing up and coming out with. So
me too. We're going to be doing an Underdog Best Ball Mania draft as our first show. So I'm really excited. It'll be 1 week after the actual draft. Landing spot will be solidified. Undrafted free agents will have signed. So I'm really looking forward to see like all the ADP shakeups. Following the draft.
Yeah, because that's usually like the first those are the ADP and all that. That's usually starts like I said right after the draft and so that week. So I'm looking forward to everything you got going on. You can follow Stacey on all those platforms as well. Twitter, Instagram. I think that's do you have TikTok too? Or?
I've got Blue Sky. Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky. I've got TikTok. As well. I've started trying to embrace TikTok more recently. So
yeah, me too.
I'm at Stacy_Perez 83 on every single platform. I just try to make it easy.
Yes, for sure. So follow Stacy. Like I said, fantasy football analyst and expert. Love the coverage. Love all things you got going on and doing in this space. And it's always a pleasure talking with you. And thank you again for just doing this. And I'm sure we'll do this again before the season starts. I'm for sure. Yes, you are a regular now. So you're the podcast family, as I said, the Real Deal Podcast family. So you're part of that family. So you're definitely at the barbecue and all that. So at the cookout, you're at the cookout. So you're ready. So we'll do something over the summer. We'll get right into because we'll be deep into that. So so looking forward to having you back on as well.
Absolutely, Courtney. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. All right, well, you guys enjoy the weekend, and until next time, I got another show coming up later today, so be on the lookout for that. So again, everyone stay safe. All right, have a good one.